Thank you.
Man.
All right. If I can have everyone's attention, we are now joined by Carl Edwards, driver of the number 19 Aris Toyota. Feels a little weird to say that. How does it feel to hear that for the first time here at Daytona? Who actually finished 7th today in the qualifying run here at Daytona for next Sunday's 57th annual Daytona 500. While we only locked in 2 spots for qualifying here, it will line you up in a good position for Thursday's duels here at Daytona. Just talk a little bit about being in a new car, new number, new team, basically new everything. But coming into Daytona, a little nervous, I know, with no points. So you had a good run today. Talk a little bit about that.
A little nervous, to say the least. We we had not really talked about it much publicly, but there were a lot of meetings and a lot of anxiety. There was a lot of anxiety over how, the fact that we could possibly miss the Daytona 500. And that was, I think we've had 4 or 5 meetings trying to come up with a strategy for qualifying. And so to have the 3rd fastest time of the day, I believe we are locked into the show, which is huge, to say the least. With Aris coming on board in such a huge way, everybody putting this 4th team together, Stanley, it was going to be really tough to explain to them if we had trouble in the qualifiers. So now we can go out and have some fun, be aggressive, and try to start up front.
Okay, we'll take questions for Carl. We'll take first with Jenna, then Pete.
Jennifer, AP, Carl, congratulations. I know that you had a lot of stress, as you said. What was your plan? What did you guys decide at JGR, and how did you make this work in your favor?
We had a lot of plans, and none of them really, it didn't go according to plan. When that first group took off and put such fast times up, then it kind of threw any sort of advantage the second group had out of the window. So we went out in that second group. Unfortunately, everything worked out, and we put up that fast time. But that's really the key for us. Wasn't the starting position today. It was getting that fast time, and it really wasn't. It wasn't because we came up with some genius plan. Jeff Gordon and those guys got the pole because they timed rolling off the pit road better than us. They took a bigger gamble, so you can give them credit for that. But for our fast lap time, it's just pure chance.
Okay, we'll take our next question from Pete, then go to Kelly.
Pete Pistone, MRN.com and SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. You're happy, understandably so. A lot of your colleagues were not. Can you maybe give some perspective of kind of what went on out there?
Well, I'm very happy with the result. The process and everything was extremely stressful. If it is better for the show, if it's better for the fans, then it's definitely good for all of us. But this is a heck of a way to qualify for the biggest race of the year. Especially for folks that are in our position, because there's so much chance for a problem or something keeping you out of the race or putting you in a bad position. So, I don't know. I guess it remains to be seen what the best way to do this is. But this is definitely one way.
Okay, we'll take our next question, Kelly.
Kelly Crandall from PopularSpeed.com. Carl, to your left. When the decision was made at Gibbs that you're coming down here with no points and you have to qualify in speed, how much has that been on your mind? What was it like for you behind the scenes, internally? What's been going through your mind?
I don't know if it's a decision as much as a realization that we're coming down here. And with this qualifying format, if you look at how everything came together, I think the realization or the understanding that this is how we were going to qualify, that's the point at which we all went, whoa, this could go extremely bad. So that from then on, it's been just a total mess of anxiety trying to figure out, how it's a bunch of if-thens. If we would have qualified poorly or had a wreck today, then the qualifying race would have been much different. If there was weather, what do we do? There were so many variables. It was, this is all put to rest now, but man, that was not fun to think about.
Okay, we'll go ahead and take Matt. Didn't you have a question, Matt? We'll go ahead and take that.
Matt Weaver, PopularSpeed.com. From down here watching the Unlimited last night, it seemed like you really drove a more aggressive race in a plate race environment than we've ever seen you before. Was that a conscious effort to try to set the tone for your career at JGR, or was it just the plate race itself and the Unlimited?
That's a great question. I thought about that. I'd say I was a little more aggressive last night just because I wanted to make sure to get everything I could out of the car, to find the edges of the box, and I still was a little cautious at the beginning, and we avoided a couple of those wrecks. But towards the end, I just want to make sure I gave it everything I could. There's nothing better than starting out fast, and hopefully we can continue to do that.
Okay, we'll go to Lewis, then Nate.
Yes. Lewis Frank Reuters, you used the word anxiety. How much anxiety did you get seeing the wreck in that first knockout session?
Yeah, that wasn't good. I did not like to see that. You don't want to see any wrecks or anything like that ever, especially here. They can be so violent. But yeah, when you see that, especially with everything we have going on, I didn't. I probably would have been better off not seeing that actually. So, I mean, as soon as we ran our fast lap, Darian said, "P3, good lap. Do not wreck the car." So it's like, it's crazy.
Okay, take our next question. Nate, go ahead.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Carl, after the qualifying session at Talladega last fall, there were also some unhappy people, and NASCAR said they're going to take a look at it, realizing this is somewhat of a matter of opinion. But do you think that they addressed it? Do you think that they changed it for a restrictor plate race? And if you have any thoughts, and Kurt Busch suggested maybe doing 4-lap averages. Is there another way that might be better than this way?
What depends on it's better for whom? For the competitors, the best thing is to go out and do single car runs and see who built the best car and who brought the best piece. That's probably the best way for the competitors. But this makes it a little more chaotic. It probably creates some storylines. It definitely stirs things up, and in some ways it might be more entertaining. So for the fans, this may be the best way. I don't know. It's very hard for me. I have a very subjective viewpoint, and it's just hard for me to say.
Okay, we'll go Chris right here in the middle, and then up to Kenny, and then Dwight.
Chris Knight, CatchFence.com. Carl, if you are locked in on speed, how is your approach for Thursday night stools? Do you take a conservative approach and try not to wreck the car, or do you go after it and try to get a better starting spot for the 500?
Well, that is a big if. I mean, are we certain? We're locked in, right? Is that can anybody do the math on this, or we are? Okay. So yeah. So since we are locked in, and I want to write and say that as much as possible in case we're not. Then I can be more aggressive because I want to start up front in that 500. So now I can be more aggressive, not worry about getting in a wreck. We'll still be in the show. The problem with racing when you're not locked in is that, I mean, those qualifiers are going to be insane. And if you're not locked in, it's so hard out there. I don't know how to explain it. It's so hard sometimes. There's half of you that's screaming, just go for it. And the other half saying, the other half's a moron, slow down. So it's tough. So now we can just go for it. We've got a really good backup car, so I don't even talk about that. Let me go back. But we do. Yeah, I'm going to go for it. Yes.
Okay, we'll go Kenny, then Dwight, then
Not
Ken.
going to start talking about the back.
Yeah, I think you touched on this a little bit a minute ago. But when you say this is a heck of a way to qualify for this race, is that an endorsement?
No, that's a statement of fact. I said this is a way. This is one of the ways to do it.
Okay, Dwight, then Ken in the back.
Dwight Drum, RaceTech.com. Carl, when you made that decision to go to Joe Gibbs, you must have had a lot of expectations. How do those expectations line up as of today?
So far, my expectations, everyone at JGR and Toyota and everyone, they've exceeded my expectations. It's been very good. Now, we haven't raced a lot. I'm sure we'll have rough times just like everyone does, but so far it's been great. I think the buildup of this team, the way that everything is put together, the group of guys that they put on that 19 car, I mean, I could not be happier with it. So I'm having a good time.
Okay, we'll take Ken in the back.
Carl, when you're sitting on pit road with the clock ticking down, how ridiculous does that feel for a driver to sit there when that's going on? Do you feel as silly as we thought you looked doing that? And if you were one of the handful of fans who paid $20 to come out here today, do you think you got your money's worth?
Well, I'm not going to answer that and assume that I agree. I don't want you to assume I agree with you. Well, no, I'm just saying I don't know what it looks like to the fans. That's for the fans to say. I know for me, that's a heck of a lot more stressful. The word silly did not come to mind with everything we had on the line. I mean, it was really stressful sitting there watching the clock tick, knowing that we had to make it around and get in the right line and do all this stuff correctly. It's a strategy, just like anything else. There's this style of racing. We have to all remember this style of racing is not. It's not racing in the sense that everyone thinks of racing. This is a whole different paradigm here with the restrictor plates, with all the strategies in qualifying, with the way things shake out on the racetrack, avoiding wrecks, being in the right line. I mean, this is its own animal. So, it just is what it is.
Is there anything like at a spur of the moment now that you could think of that might be a better way of doing this?
Well, I think if we were probably starting with a blank sheet, we'd probably say, that it. Well, I'm not. Here's the deal. I don't decide how we're going to qualify. I get in the race car and go do the best I can under the rules we have, and I think everyone in here would have an opinion on what would be the best way to do it.
Okay, we'll take our next question up front from Tom.
I'm sure you'll write a couple of ideas.
Hi, Carl.
You don't seem too shy with your opinion.
Hi, Carl. Tom
Yes, sir.
Jensen, FoxSports.com. Is it safe to say that the Gibbs and Hendrick cars are the class of the field?
man.
Or is there anybody out there that you're looking at is really, really fast?
I'd say that that 78 car last night was extremely fast. That one, I think those guys, they've got something going there. That car was very, very good. Looked like the Penske cars were really good. This place is, the performance here is a measure of your performance at a restrictor plate racetrack, and this is so different than Atlanta or Vegas or any of the places we'll go to next. That it's really its own animal, and you have to. I personally compartmentalize this race and separate it from the rest of them. It's just so much different.
Okay, we'll take Greg and then Mike.
Hey, I've seen you somewhere before. GregEngleExaminer.com. How much, the more because you had very limited on-track time with you and Darian prior to this week, the test at Charlotte. You had a great outing last night. You had a really good outing today. How much do you look at Thursday now as you have to balance, are you having to balance between surviving or looking at it as an opportunity for more experience, more motivation, and more of the bonding that you need to be successful?
Well, to me, my racing is my livelihood. It's what I do. I have to go perform, and with all these new things, honestly, it's been very, very stressful and a little bit scary at times with all the new things. And so I feel like every time I'm in the car, I feel a little more comfortable. Just the procedure for starting the car and the procedure for cooling the engine, the belts, the seat, everything's different. The way Darian talks on the radio. I mean, last night. He said, I was getting ready to leave we did a pit stop, and he said, dig, dig, dig. And I thought, who's he talking to? Because I'm used to hearing go, go, go. So I sat there like an idiot. And, those kind of things are, they keep me awake at night. So every time I can get in the car, it's better. So I'll balance those things. I'll learn, and we'll be a little aggressive.
Okay, we'll take our next question up front. Mike.
Mike Neff from FrontStretch.com. Carl, just curious, you talk about as the clock's winding down and worrying about getting around to the start-finish line in time to put a lap down. Did you guys actually test that during practice and sit at the end of pit lane and then launch and get around and see how long it actually took?
Yes, so the final time when we went out, the final 12 guys, all of us knew the time we thought it would take to get around and take the green. And we also knew the time it would take to get a second lap or a third lap. So once the third lap time had passed, like 2.5 minutes, everybody thought, okay, so now we're going to run 2 laps. So we got to 2 minutes. Well, now, since nobody went, now it's just, can we get around and make 1 lap? And that cutoff time was right at 1 minute. I waited till about 57 seconds and just, did a lot of praying. And then the guys behind me, I thought there was no way they could make it, Jeff and those guys, but they just were willing to risk more. And they crossed the finish line, literally right when the clock was going off. But that is harder to do than it sounds. And you have to take into account the draft and all those things that could pick you up a second or two. They just gambled bigger and they won.
Okay, final 2 questions. Bruce there in the middle, then Stan up front.
Bruce Martin, NationalSpeedsportNews.com and Speed Sport Magazine. Carl, is this the start of the Carl Edwards rejuvenation tour?
Yeah, I'm gonna get T-shirts made to say that. No, I think so. It's fun. I've had more fun this week. I did a thing with Darrell Waltrip this morning. We talked about it. I am having fun. It's a new challenge. I feel like I'm starting over. Jack Roush brought me down here 12 years ago or something for my first truck race. I had all the anxiety and the nerves, and I feel that way right now. So this is fun for me, and I hope the result is good. But for now, I'm really enjoying the process.
Okay, our final question, Stan.
Stan Creekmore with CompetitionPlus.com. Carl, now that you've got a guarantee that you're going to be in the Daytona 500, how much does that turn Thursday's duel somewhat into a test session because you haven't been able to test all winter.
Right. So the pressure will be off. There are some things like the communication between Darian and I that I think we can work on. The pit stops are going to be important. Not only is it a new pit crew to me, but it's a new group working together. We talked a little bit about that last night. We didn't get much opportunity to mess around with pit stops. And as you guys know, that last pit stop can be huge in the Daytona 500. So it will give us a chance with less pressure to work on all of those things. And as I sit here and think about all of it, it makes me a little more stressed out because there are a lot of things we have to cover, but that's a good time to do it.
Carl, thank you for your time. Congratulations on a great run today.
All right,
Good luck
guys. Thanks a lot.
Thursday and Sunday.